I've been away for so long, but it's cooling down now. I'm back, and yeah, looking forward to this show, mate. There's a lot that's happened over the course of the off season. Obviously, now we're into the second part of the preseason game against the Philadelphia Eagles, and also we'll talk a little bit more on the two joint practices, which have been quite tasty from what I can gather. But no, I hope you're all right. I hope the crew's all good, and yeah, we're back and we're flying, and yeah, it's going to be a good season.
We've been plugging away, and of course, it's not far away now. 3 weeks until the season opener against Seattle, which of course will be, looking forward to in a couple of weeks' time. But there's still the matter of pre-season to get out of the way first. So as Carl alluded to, we're going to be talking about the joint practices with the Eagles, which have been a little bit spicy the last couple of days. But of course, look forward to that pre-season second game this weekend, where obviously the culmination of the week where Eagles and Patriots will square off. And then we'll finish the show by talking about the current state of the Patriots roster, following a free agent signing earlier in the week, a couple of free agent visits as well, and just the state of where things are at and where perhaps the Patriots could add players heading into cut down day. Before we get into the show, though, don't forget to smash the like button, Gronk spike the subscribe button, follow us on our social media platforms at Pats ATP. Leave us a rating and review on Spotify and Apple. And of course, any comments, any questions, any involvement whatsoever on the show this evening are more than welcome. So don't be afraid to get in touch via the comments bar below on your screen. Right then, joint practices with the Philadelphia Eagles. And I feel like this has been one that we've been looking forward to, fresh off the back of an enthralling 13-all tie with the Colts last week. Straight into things with Philly this week in what was going to be a step up in competition. And from what we've seen so far, I think both teams have given it as good as they can get, which I think was to be expected.
Yeah, definitely. It has been a lot. It has been very, very challenging to say the least. But from what I was watching and obviously seeing the rundown of what happened yesterday, it sounds like that the Pats I would say dominated the Eagles, but they had the upper hand for most of the training, shall we say. There were some teething problems. One of them was not the Drake May AJ Brown connection, because unlike what I saw at the start of training camp where AJ wasn't getting the ball enough and he wasn't catching them enough, and people were already on their high horses turning around and saying, oh, here we go, look, the connection's not there between the two. Here we are now in the first joint practice, and he had, I think it was today in the second joint practice, he had one touchdown on one-on-one. He had I think it's 3 touchdown on 2-on-2. He had 1 touchdown on 11-on-11. So the connection is there when it comes to AJ Brown and Drake May. So let's just put that to bed for once. But there was some good standouts. Mostly for me, it's on the defensive side of the ball, from what I can gather. So we've had the likes of Craig Woodson having 2 interceptions, one of them being a pick 6 on Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts looked very, very mediocre during the first portion of training. And yeah, so we're going to go through over the first 2 days to see what happens. But overall, you look at it and go, yeah, New England are on the upper hand with this. Vrabel is not allowing what has transpired in the offseason to come into the preseason. If you know, you know. He's kept it locked down, and the lads are on point with everything. So Drake has been improving throughout this training camp as well. I would say the trenches is still the slight worry, especially with the run defense of what I noticed yesterday, and obviously the running game in its totality. Even with Reggie Bully on that fullback, we're still having some teething problems, but it is preseason after all.
Yeah, it certainly seemed as though the Patriots had the upper hand of day one. I think the Eagles fans got a little bit excited because the first rep between Quinyon Mitchell and AJ Brown seemed to obviously, be a good tussle before AJ Brown dropped the ball. And people say, Eagles fans got excited saying, Quinyon's locked him down. But then the Eagles secondary fell apart. I believe Drake May had 5 touchdown passes yesterday in those sessions, spread around to AJ Brown, spread around to Kayshon Boutte, who had a great He had a great play against one of them for a touchdown. AJ Brown took one for 49 yards to the house. Demario Douglas turned Cooper DeJean inside out like a washing line. It was really, really encouraging on the offensive side of the ball, giving a very talented Eagles defense, a lot of things to worry about. And that's really encouraging for us because, we spoke on this podcast over the summer about how it feels unusual for the Patriots to have such a plethora of receiving talent, like 7 deep, really. So if it isn't AJ Brown, Bootie's hauling one in down the field. Romeo Dobbs is getting open. Demario Douglas is destroying his guy in the slot. Mac Hollins is making plays. Kyle Williams with his speed. Efton Chisholm. It's like, pick your poison with that. And then you've got Hunter Henry and Eli Raridon making plays. Like, you can't defend every man on the field. So that's really encouraging that no matter who it's been that's being targeted, they're getting production. And aside from, like you said, Carl, I think the O-line were given a bit of a challenge yesterday, which is no surprise against that Philly front. We know what that Philly front can do. They've got some real good, juicy athletes off the edge and some big powerhouses inside that are going to cause problems. But aside from a few worrying moments of pressure, it seemed like our offense was really humming yesterday. Maybe less so today. Still pretty good by all accounts today. But certainly in that first session yesterday, I think we probably caught the Eagles off guard a little bit with the firepower we've got.
Yeah, we did. Regarding of the offensive line, that was one of the things that going into this new season, that was something that we had to really, really knuckle down on and see what we got. Will Campbell now in his second year, recovered from his injury. He has to step up big time now, so I'll be keeping a very close eye on him throughout the entirety of the season. Will Campbell went up against Jalix Hunt. He's no slouch as a pass rusher. Hunt seemed to get home twice over the left side, once around Campbell's outside edge, and then one pressure was on a stunt. Campbell also split reps with Hunt in one-on-ones. Campbell and our brand new left guard, Elijah Vera Tucker, are still a work in progress on stunts, and Hunt gave the Pats left tackle some big problems, more than what we've seen in previous practices. One thing we did see, though, was Jared Wilson kick finally into center, his actual position where we actually drafted him at. 2 impressive wins over Eagles stud tackle Jordan Davis. If you can get 2 wins over Jordan Davis, that's a bloody good. That's a really good. That's a very, really good day for you on that one. You got underneath Davis with a firm punch to stop hulking defensive tackle in his tracks. The Pats also hit positive runs through the left side between both the A gap of Wilson and Vera Tucker and the B gap between Vera Tucker and Campbell. Wilson has had very heavy weight bouts against Davis and Colts defensive tackle Grover Stewart. And from what I'm gathering, it looks like he has held his own. And then to top it all off, obviously our rookie that we got in the first round, Caleb Lomu, he repped at both tackle spots. Mostly with the second team. He stoned Epinesa by walling off an inside spin one-on-ones. He had a great backside reach block on the outside zone scheme. That sets up a running back, Jam Miller cutback, which I will get to Jam Miller a little bit later on, because what I saw from him in the first preseason game was actually something quite interesting. But Lomu followed that up with a pressure. He did allow a pressure arm over / swim, and he fell off his front side zone block on a stuffed run. So Lomu continues to he's having a bit of more of an up and down summer, shall we say. So with the offensive line, it's still a work in progress, but it's mostly on that left-hand side, because you got Morgan Moses playing at right tackle. You still got Michael Winner playing at right guard. The right side doesn't seem to be any issues whatsoever. It seems to be the blind side. And as we can safely tell, you've got to get that blind side sorted. We can't have Drake May continuously running for his life again, sacked on nearly every other play. That has to stop.
I think overall Campbell's had a pretty good camp. But he's still a young player that's developing. We know about kind of the physical deficiencies and stuff like that. But, I've got no massive concerns about the starting line. That's for sure. It's the depth that's the problem. With regards to Caleb Lomu, we knew this was going to happen, right? When we were doing our draft evaluations for the offensive line, he was someone that I didn't want us to go after, because I thought he was too raw and he was too weak as a prospect. I thought he's a finesse tackle that's going to take time to develop. He doesn't play with a great deal of power. He gets ball rushed out of his skin. Lo and behold, we drafted him, right? I'm not going to go bash the guy. He's probably come to a team that was a good fit for him in terms of doesn't have to play straight away and gets to be coached by Doug Marrone in a Josh McDaniels offense. So for him, he's landed on his feet in a really good situation where he's not being thrusted into playing straight away. But we kind of knew this was going to take time with Caleb Lomu. So the fact that we have the 2 starters entrenched at the moment is really important. But it's the depth kind of behind them lot that is a little bit concerning. And it definitely seems as if something was to happen to Will Campbell, I wonder whether Marcus Bryant would be the first name up, despite the fact Lomu was the first round pick, because we've seen Bryant get quite a big run at left tackle with the second team in particular, and of course in the friendly as well, where he graded really well with PFF.
Yeah, Bryant did really well at left tackle.
Yeah,
he did really well. Yeah, it always, when we drafted him last year, it was more like a red shirt type of year, potentially. Now it's more of a case of, okay, now he's trying to push he's not going to be the starting left tackle. That'll always be Will Campbell's. But you've got to take your hat off to the kid who's actually pushing really, really hard to try and maybe push for the start. And maybe he might be a surefire backup, which I can't say the same for James Hudson on that note. No, Hudson, he got beaten by defensive tackle Gabe Hall in his one-on-ones as well. Not to mention that their attacker lost to defensive tackle Usa Bernard as well, which was not great. But Michael went and won both of his reps as well against Jalen Carter.
Yeah,
big name needed. So there.
Good evening to Ravens across the pond, our friends over there on the Across the Pond network. Shout out to you. We weren't ignoring your message. Obviously, we were just deep in conversation, of course, with talking about our training camp. But thanks for joining us this evening. Hope you guys are all doing well and looking forward to the season. And also, as well, just a quick point on the Ravens before we move on to the other side of the ball. I hope you guys are excited for Jacoby Lane, because me and Carl were big Jacoby Lane truthers in the draft process, and he looked really good the other day, and he's had a great camp so far. So yeah.
I'm still completely and utterly off that we didn't actually draft the guy. Generally. Anyway, I digress.
Well, we've got plenty of receivers. It's all good. It's all good. But yeah.
We have, but it would be not. But then again, if we did get Jacoby Lane, we probably would have traded Keishon Butte by now.
Possibly. Quite possibly. Let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball then. So unsurprisingly, the pass rush has had its ups and downs, especially against what is a pretty good Eagles offensive line, particularly at the tackle position. It did sound as if Gabe Akers was probably the best of the group from what we've seen. I think early on took his time to kind of find his feet, but by the end of the session was really starting to get a bit of joy. Because he's a power player, right? And that's kind of his MO, and he was starting to cause some trouble with that. But the rest of the pass rush a little bit lackluster, which isn't really much of a surprise given the opposition. Some good moments for the interior D-line. It sounds like Milton Williams has been really solid. Corey Durden, from everything I'm seeing, is having an outstanding camp, and that's looking like one hell of a find from last year that he was cast off by the Giants. We pick him up. He ends up playing a really important role as that kind of rotational defensive lineman. And now he's kind of established himself as he's the third man up, isn't he? You've got Barmore and Williams and Durden's third.
Yeah, but he was basically also playing as a backup nose tackle.
Yeah.
As well, when you think about it as well. So
a rise, for a former UDFA or wherever he was. I think he was a UDFA. To bounce around practice squads, end up coming to us, and now he's the third in the rotation. And whenever he's on the field, he does something. So I really like that. For him.
We also follow him on Instagram as well. So Corey, if you're watching or listening, hit us up. We'd like to get you on the show at some point, mate.
Absolutely. That'd be great to talk to him. But yeah, on the further back in the secondary, which, let's be honest, is the strength of the team, and we don't have Christian Gonzalez out there at the moment, who contract, injury, whichever one you want to believe, he's not going to be out there in joint practices. But the secondary were hot yesterday against Jalen Hurts. 2 picks again, one of them pick 6. Funny enough, when this happened, I work with an Eagles fan, and I text him straight away and said, "Good to see your passing game is still cooking." which he definitely bit at. But yeah, like it seems like the secondary were all over him. And look, I'm a little bit worried because the Eagles are worried for them, not for us. Their passing game was atrocious last year with AJ Brown.
Yeah.
Obviously, AJ Brown is now with us. Devontae Smith, we don't know if he can be a one. I'd like to think he can. I'm a big fan of him, but can he be a one? Behind that, Dontavian Wicks is a wide receiver too. I'm not having that. Hollywood Brown. No,
Lemon.
I mean, Lemon's a rookie. You don't know what you're going to get from him. And you've got a quarterback who I don't think he's bad. I've never thought Jalen Hurts is bad, but he's not someone that you want throwing the ball 40 times a game. You want to establish the run with Saquon Barkley. You want Hurts to scramble a few times, and you want him to be throwing the ball maybe 20 to 25 times at most. But you can't get in an all-round shootout with Jalen Hurts because you're going to be in trouble, because we've seen the deficiencies that we have with a heavy passing game. And when you're throwing on one of the best secondaries in the NFL, even without Christian Gonzalez, there's going to be problems. And lo and behold, like, it's not just happened yesterday with those ones we've mentioned. It's happened again today where Marcus Jones had a pick six, and Jalen Hurts has been very wobbly. Yes, he's had his moments. He's thrown touchdown passes as you'd expect him to, but he's turned the ball over quite a lot.
No, he definitely has. I think the defensive side of the ball, you've got to look at it and go on, yeah, they've actually done really well. Apart from the first connection you said to Quinion Mitchell and AJ Brown, obviously, but then from that point forward, AJ Brown completely and utterly bossed it. Not to mention the fact as well, but it also pivoted as well, going back to the offensive line. It wasn't the pass protection wasn't perfect. It had some pressure on the left side, especially when the Eagles used line games and they schemed rushes. It appeared May had time to deliver the ball downfield a little bit more better than usual. The one play in particular stood out where wideouts AJ Brown and Romeo Doubs both ran vertical routes on the outside. May was able to look off the post safety by staring down Brown and then came back to Doubs versus single coverage. Doubs then high pointed the ball over the corner for a deep completion. I saw that via Mike Giardi on X, and that was a pinpoint precision throw. Great catch as well. I think Doubs is actually going to be quite an interesting. I think Doubs is going to surprise a lot of people. I think he's going to be. He is going to be probably end up being a wide receiver 2, maybe wide receiver 3, depending how well Keishon Butte's done. By the way, Butte throughout training camp has been tearing it up. Not so much so far in the joint practice against the Eagles.
I think he's had his moments though. He's definitely had his moments. He's had multiple touchdowns. In fact, I think he mossed someone for a touchdown yesterday.
He did moss someone for a touchdown. Yeah. That was a quality. That's a quality.
He just he just makes plays whenever you throw him the ball.
Yeah. And also as well, during the early down run periods, the play action crosses were working for the Patriots' top offense. May hit Pop Douglas and Brown on intermediate crosses off McDaniels' vintage play action concepts. So those schemes have been humming all summer long, which is good to see. Also as well, Demario Douglas also freaking put Cooper DeJean on skates on one particular route. I will give credit. I will actually give Cooper DeJean a little bit of slack because he is actually in a relationship with Nikki Bella. So I'll give him some slack with that. But apart from that, no, the receivers looked. Every time I saw a highlight from the Patriots X post, it was always a touchdown to Brown, touchdown to Dobbs, touchdown to Douglas. It just looked like we're just going at them here, and Drake's not having any issues at all. Obviously, when the pads are on, there would be sacks, but not to the. But obviously, it wouldn't be a sack because they'll challenge them and so on. But overall, I think the receivers have done really well. But the Patriots run game, its best run of the day yesterday was a toss to running back Trayvon Henderson. It got called back for a hold on the offensive line. The refs were on hand on that, but they don't announce numbers. Overall, the Pats ground out some dirty yards against Philly's stingy run defense. Ramondre Stevenson hitting some inside runs for decent gains. You'd like to see some more explosives in the run game from the top offense.
Yeah, I guess if there's been one negative from the offseason, it's been the kind of lack of pop and excitement from the running game. Like, I think they've been going about their business, but I must admit I've seen very few social media posts and clips where the running game has popped off. It seemed like last year when Travion Henderson was a rookie, we were getting clips every day of, oh my God, Henderson's just absolutely blazed someone for a deep run. They found him on a wheel, and he was just making plays all camp, to the point where there was so much hype around Travion going into the season. Doesn't seem like there's been much of that this year. Obviously, Reggie Gilliam's been brought in as a fullback to help that. I think the offensive line has maybe struggled a little bit in run blocking. But we'll see once the games start for real, right? Just where that's at. I think we're comfortable with two good backs, two very different backs that are probably going to split the carries this year. I have been saying all along that I really want Travion Henderson to take control of the backfield this year, because you spent a premium pick on him. You drafted him at the top end of the second round last year. He should really be starting to establish himself as the number one back. So that's what I want to see, is him take a leap and go on to at least lead the carries between him and Ramondre. But there doesn't seem to be an awful lot of hype around him. Maybe that's down to the fact that the passing game has been so good, and that Drake May has been just absolutely dealing all summer. And we've got 7 wide receivers that are NFL level players that can offer a variety of things. So maybe that's to do with it as well. But yeah, I think if I want to see a bit more from the running game going into the season, because we're definitely going to need that.
Yeah, definitely, especially going against Seattle in week 1. We're definitely going to need the running game for that one.
Seattle might have the best cornerback group of the modern era. Have you said they're signing everyone at the moment? Obviously, they've re-signed Witherspoon to a massive deal. They brought back Josh Jobe last year, and now they've signed Terrion Arnold and Trayvon Diggs. It's just hoarding corners. Terrion Arnold might be suspended for the first week, but
but also Trayvon Diggs as well. You got to remember though, he does get interceptions, but he gives up a lot of yards. If someone burns him, bye-bye. He's a roller coaster corner. Yeah, that's a perfect description to use for him.
Yeah. It's either pick or giving up a huge play. There's no in between with Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah. Interception or an 80-yard touchdown give up. Yeah, that kind of sounds about right.
But just on our secondary, then, obviously we're in good shape once Gonzo gets back out there. We've spoken about it so much, right? I'm pretty sure the contract is going to get done at some point. It will. We're not going to let him walk out the building. I reckon it's going to be around 35 million. I think that's going to be what it's 35 million a year. They're going to make him the highest paid in the league, and you're in good shape with him, Carlton Davis, Marcus Jones. There's been a couple of moments for the depth guys behind them. Vildor's had a pick in preseason. Caron Prunty's made plays in camp. We've seen moments out of Charles Woods. So there's maybe, just about adequate depth there. I think a real unsung part of this that doesn't maybe necessarily get the hype of the cornerback group is the safeties. Genuinely believe that Kevin Byard and Craig Woodson are up there in terms of safety tandems in the NFL. We're talking about a veteran in Kevin Byard who's 32, 33 years of age, been a high-level player for the vast majority of his career, led the NFL in interceptions last year, who is a captain and a coach on the field, alongside a breakout star in Craig Woodson, who was excellent as a rookie and has been great again in camp this year, and you would think he's going to continue to get better and will learn from someone like Byard. I think them two could be huge this year. Really huge.
Not to mention as well, you got Saunders as well, Saunders Jr.
Saunders has played well. Del Pettis has had his moments.
Del Pettis has played well. Our entire secondary has been lights out all throughout training camp. And that's probably our strongest part of our defense. I know you say defensive tackles are our strongest part. It's our secondary. It's a no-fly zone. We dare you to fly it and throw the ball in the vicinity of our corners and safeties. We dare you.
Yeah. That's really encouraging to see. I'm really looking forward to seeing how they get on them, because we're going to get some tests on that side this year. We may be a little bit vulnerable against the run, maybe the lack of a true nose tackle, because I don't think Corey Durden necessarily is a nose, but the lack of a true nose tackle, maybe lack of linebacker depth as well might come down to that. But Overall, I think the defense is in really good shape. Zach Cora's got that unit well prepared. They're running the same scheme. And aside from the pass rush in terms of getting aggressive, I think we've got most things in play there.
That seems to be the issue. It was the issue last year. Getting to the quarterback was a struggle. The only way we were getting to the quarterback was by blitzing. And it's happening again in this preseason. We can't get to the quarterback. We're having to blitz. Even with Draymond Jones, who is, he's 6'4", 280, and Gabe Yakas is 6'4", 271. So we have beef at the edge. But the problem is, though, you need to team that beef with a bit of speed at the same time. And we've got to try and be better. If we can set the edge, great. That's one half of the battle won. But we've still got to find a way of getting to the quarterback, especially a mobile one at that. Because we've got to play Josh. We're going to have to play Josh Allen twice. We're going to have to play Malik Willis twice. And I would say the Jets have got Geno Smith, but I can't keep a straight face with that.
I would not be surprised if one of those Jets games this year is against Cade Klubnik.
It'll probably be week 16.
He's looked reasonably decent in preseason so far for Jets standards anyway. So I'd imagine Geno starts the season, and when they realize he's a bum, then they'll bench him and put Cade Klubnik in.
They had him already. They had him in 2015.
Yeah.
They had Geno in 2015, so they knew he was our sin. So what's changed after 10 years? If he had a couple of really good seasons in Seattle, because he had a competent fucking head coach and a competent team. Yeah. That's what happens when you work around a competent staff and competent team. You actually play like a competent player. And he did. And then they found out he sucked. And then they kicked him out. There we go. Anyway, enough of the Jets slandering. Let's get back on topic.
Just before we move on to looking at the game this weekend, obviously today was a bit more of, I think, of a attritional battle. I think the defense has really stepped things up today. For both teams. I think the Eagles had a bit more jaw on the defensive side of the ball. Drake May threw 2 picks. One of them reportedly was a bad decision on a throw to AJ Brown, which was picked off. The other one sounds like a bit of a circus play, to be honest. He's thrown the ball to AJ Brown, who's then had the ball popped out by Reek Woolen. The ball's gone flying up in the air, and then Jalix Hunt has dived for it like a goalkeeper and plucked it just before it's hit the floor. And it's an interception. So a bit of one of those crazy picks where the quarterback's probably thinking, how the fuck has that been intercepted? But I think still a solid day, but I think the defense has really upped things after a scoring frenzy yesterday, particularly on our side.
They definitely did.
So, but these are 2 good defenses.
They are very good defenses, and you got to take your hat off to the pair of them. The biggest takeaway for me from day 2, after Wednesday, the offense controlled most 11-on-11 periods. It was much better for the defense for the Patriots side of things. A prime example, Saquon Barkley, he found gaping holes in the run game yesterday, but things changed today because the Pats front seven was much stouter. Milton Williams, Corey Durden, Leonard Taylor consistently met Barkley near the line of scrimmage, and the easy 8-yard run from Wednesday became 3 yards a day later. So it's like Mike Vrabel completely drilled it into them. The linebackers as well, they did a good job of filling as well, giving the Pats defense plenty of layers to prevent a talented back like Barkley any opportunity to slip through the tackles and, create yards after contact. The coverage was a lot better as well. On Wednesday, most of the defensive success came when the guys up front got in Jalen Hurts' face and they forced him to hurry off target throws. Thursday saw better coverage on the back end, led by Marcus Jones. Picked off, as you said, he picked off Jalen Hurts, including one scintillating effort near the sideline in the red zone, which if you haven't seen it, go check out the Patriots website on X and on Instagram. It is a quality catch there by Marcus Jones. Not to say the pass rush was completely lacking either, which was a good thing. Williams and Durden both found their way to Hurts to stymie a couple of plays. And on a few other occasions, the traffic around the callback affected some throws. Yesterday, the defense was caught in a blitz when Spillane shot up the middle, only to watch helplessly as Hurts floated one to Will Shipley for 50-yard plus gain. Similar situation unfolded today, and this time Elijah Ponder dropped further into coverage and deflected the pass away. It was just one example of the improvement from one day to the next. For me, a solid bounce back for the defense after 7 periods of struggling yesterday. But unfortunately, the same could not be said for the Eagles defense, which also punched back after a tough day as well. As Drake had more pressure around him throughout the day, and the secondary was much more tied to AJ Brown than it was yesterday as well. Demario Douglas, he converted a 3rd down in the red zone with a quick out, but things bogged down on the ensuing possessions. Stevenson and Henderson were bottled up in the run game once again, and the Eagles also emerged from piles of the football on a couple of occasions. It was unclear if they were fumbles, simply the defender taking the ball away from plays have ended. Either way, it's not good to finish the play with the ball. May also close one period of a poor throw to the outside towards Brown was picked off near the pylon, as you already alluded to. His comments was, I was just late with the football, late in the red zone. You can't be late in the red zone down there. It's tight and it's a concept we probably need to get some work on and just find some timing. So you just can't be late down there. So at least Drake was opened up and been honest about that.
Absolutely. So overall, bit more of a level playing field today after we edged things yesterday. But as we said, 2 good defenses that are getting after it. Seems like there was a few fracas, you're going to get that in preseason. I mean, Jalen Carter was escorted off the field yesterday for throwing a punch. There was a few scuffles. It's always the case in these joint practices, right? Emotions are running high. Like, they're all trying to make an impression. Some of those players are playing for jobs. And things can boil over as well, especially in the heat. So, I think it's pretty much gone as expected, but we'll see how this week culminates with the second preseason game, Kyle. Obviously, after, as I said, an enthralling 13-all draw last week in which the Patriots backups drew with the Colts backups, we've now got another game this week against the Eagles, and I imagine that we are probably going to see another game just like last weekend, where I don't think you're going to get many starters playing this game.
No, you're not going to get many starters playing this game. But the whole point of preseason is it's the same with the other freaking round shaped ball that we don't care on this channel. It's about knowing. It's about seeing what your big signings are like, and your rookies you bring in and your free agent players. That's what you're looking for. That's what you want to see. We've seen Tommy DeVito. I'll get the name right this time, first time back. And obviously we had the young kid who was a 7th round pick as well. Had their good days as well. You're not expecting them to completely set the world on fire, but as long as they play, over average or competent, shall we say, you don't expect much of that. One thing I always look at, though, you always look at the battles that we have. So we know it's going to be Trayon Henderson and Ron Rodgers as the RB1 and the RB2, or other way around, right? But no one doesn't know who the RB3 is. Originally, we thought Lan Larson, when he came in, it was like, right, okay, he's back from injury now. Let's see what he could do. Jam Miller, our last pick that we took in round 7, the running back out of Alabama, actually has caught my eye. Now, he's good with the run, but he's not good past catching out the back. And if he's going to be a 3rd down back, then you're gonna need soft hands. You're gonna need sure hands for that role. There's that to think about. But the receiving room is so crowded now. There's still a battle going on, and I think there is going to be one major casualty that's not going to make it. There's going to be one major casualty. It's not going to make it. I could see. Obviously, we know. Let's go. The 4 receivers I know are definitely going to be in. Four receivers definitely going to be in. Okay, so it's AJ Brown, Romeo Doubs, Kayshon Boutte, Mac Hollins. There's your first 4 right there that are automatically in. And then you're figuring out who else is going to be next. Is it Pop Douglas? Is it Afton Chisholm? Is it going to be? I'm forgetting again now. Is it going to be anyone else? Is it going to be a rookie that's going to come through? Is it Dixon that might actually cause a problem? We don't know. It's going to be. There's going to be a lot of battles involved. But what you want to know is, with your offensive line, It's a second string, but you're going to say, who have we got in this second string that can push into the first one? Who could push into the start? Same with defensive tackle. Same with linebacker. Same with corner. I think corner and safety. I don't think we need to worry about the secondary. We need to worry about secondary. If Vildor has another interception, I think he's on the 53-man roster.
Right, quite possibly. I mean, he's got NFL experience, so he's already got that advantage.
If Vildor gets an interception between now and the final preseason game against the Browns, then yeah, I think he's going to be. He will be the last corner. But guess what? You made a 53-man roster, kid. Fair play to you for not bad for an unrestricted free agent for UDFA.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Vildor's someone that's been bounced around the league a little bit. You know, he's played on a few different teams and has NFL experience.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, like, that's someone that you give an experience advantage to straight away over someone like Caron Prunty and Channing Canada, who's a UDFA that's had a good camp. But yeah, they're not the battles you want to be worrying about. Like the receiver room, you know, we might end up keeping 7. I don't think we should, but and the secondary is by the by. But the real battles are, as you said, on the offensive line, particularly on the interior, because that's where the lack of depth is, and linebacker as well. You know, we know that it's Christian Ellis and Robert Spillane. Behind that, you've had moments for Chad Muma. You've had moments for Khalil Jacobs. You've had moments for KJ Britt. Like, you know, them 3 are playing for 2 jobs probably. And then you have Nnamdi Obiizor as well, who was drafted in the 6th round, who's been getting some run with the first team defense. So you've then got 4 guys going for 2 jobs. So that's one of the key battles. The edge rusher situation as well, like who's going to get in there. I'd imagine that's pretty easy to work out at the current moment in time. And then, as you said, the 3rd running back spot, which at the moment probably looks like it will be leaning towards Jam Miller. Obviously, Terrell Jennings has gone on IR, which was annoyingly inconvenient for us as a podcast last week, because Nick and I both said when we went live last week, myself and DJ last week, we both said Jennings would be the 3rd back, and then we came offline and saw that he'd been placed on injured reserve. So that was horrible timing. But it's looking like it'd be Jam Miller, because if you look at the makeup of the backfield, we don't really have what you would call a prototypical between the tackles banger. You know, Ramondre's a big back, but like he can do a lot more than just be an A gap runner.
Yeah.
Whereas Jam Miller is very much downhill between the tackles. Lan Larrison's a bit of a Swiss Army knife. Obviously, we have Jermichael Hasty, who's been in the system before, who's more of a 3rd down back. You've got Hassan Haskins in there as well. But I think in terms of styles, it probably makes sense for it to be Jam Miller. And then hopefully you can retain Lan Larrison or one of those other guys on the practice squad. Because obviously Jam Miller was a draft pick as well, so you've paid off that draft investment. So that's one of the key things. Again, like Travion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson aren't playing in these preseason games, so that those 4 guys battling it out for the 3rd running back spot have really got to make the most of it. And Miller was the best of them in the last game. So we'll see if he continues to kind of pull away there. The tight end group seems to be pretty set now. I mean, I'd imagine it's going to be Henry, Raridan, Arkin. And, we saw Raridan and Arkin combine for a good block to spring Jam Miller free in the first game for a big run. So that there seems to be a bit of chemistry there. So you can't really analyze these preseason games because we don't know who's going to play and what snaps and how long it is before the 3rd and 4th stringers are on. But you just want to see more encouraging signs, I mean, I thought the Eagles were pretty poor in their first preseason game. And I know it's backups, but they played against the Ravens backups as well. And they got battered. So you just want to see more progress, more guys staking a claim for the roster, some guys starting to shine, some moments, and more importantly, just nobody coming out of this with any injuries, especially in those key positions where the depth is just not there. Like, you don't want to see more injuries to the interior offensive line the way things are going at the moment.
Luckily, Ben Brown is only out for the remaining of preseason.
Yeah.
That's a stroke of luck. So glad that's not the case there, because if we lost him, then I don't know who steps up at left guard or backup or centre for that matter.
Well, I think we're set a guard, one guard spot now with Van Roten having come in. We'll get onto that in a second. But yeah, I think overall, don't expect this to be overly enthralling once again. Tommy DeVito and Baron Morton against, what's his name? Tanner McKee. And I'm
McKee's a good quarterback. I don't knock him. I like Tanner McKee.
Yeah, I don't think Tanner McKee's that bad. And then Cole Payton as well, the UDFA from North Dakota State, the lefty. I'm sure we'll see him at some point in the
lefty.
Might see a bit more of Eli Stowers, obviously second round pick for Philly, who seems like he's had a bit of a tough camp so far. He's been bottled up a little bit in the joint practices. He hasn't really lived up to it. But then, we were concerned about him in the draft, just being too undersized for the position. And is he really just a big slot receiver rather than a tight end, So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens.
That's why we didn't want him in the draft. That's why I didn't want Eli Stowers in the draft.
Yeah, I agree. I must say though, the tight end we did take in the draft has given me a lot of encouragement so far. I think Raridan's looks really good.
I have this is why one of our co-hosts is a Notre Dame fan, so he knows him inside and out. So he's actually impressed me. Raridan's actually impressed me. During his time as well. I think he only had one catch for 8 yards in the first preseason game. But to be honest with you, his blocking was actually quite telling, and that's one thing we're gonna need. We're gonna need it if we're playing 2 tight end sets, and we're gonna play Raridan and we're gonna play Arkin. We're gonna need blockers, and especially if we've got Reggie Bullingham at fullback, then we have got some beef to push the line further forward and help the running game. So yeah, hopefully that all transpires well. But Raridan is very good when he receives the ball as well.
Yeah. Okay, so that game is, I believe, midnight in the early hours of Sunday morning / Saturday night in the UK. And obviously it's free, I believe, with DAZN as well. So, enjoy watching that. For anyone that is planning to stay up and watch that, I'm sure I'll catch some of it, but maybe not all of it because it's pre-season after all. But no, it should be interesting, an interesting marker as to where we're at. If it follows the game script of the week, maybe New England will win. But last week was obviously very dull. Apart from Anthony Richardson looking probably too good to play against third stringers, it was a pretty
Anthony Richardson looked terrible. He needs to take up a Taysom Hill role and call it a day.
Oh, I don't know. I think there's something there, but he just not as a passer yet. He still needs a lot of refinement, which is what basically everyone was saying coming out of the draft anyway. He was way overdrafted, but he was drafted based on his potential because people look at him and think that's another clone of Cam Newton.
Here's another clone, but who's his prototype?
Well, I mean, he plays like Cam Newton, but just doesn't have the
I'll tell you this for a fact right now, and I know Tom is going to be listening to this. Okay, if the Colts finally decided to cut bait with Richardson or whatnot, it wouldn't surprise me if the Ravens picked him up. Back him up behind Lamar Jackson, and then you've got your contingency plan in place.
Yeah, 100%. I've always been a strong believer that your backup should somewhat mirror your starter, because if they have to go out of a game, then you can essentially not have to change the playbook, right? If you're Baltimore and your QB is primarily a scrambler, someone who's going to rush and pick up yards, then having someone who's going to be a statue in the pocket and not able to run for his life makes zero sense. So this is why they've got Snoop Huntley back again, because he's someone that can run. So Anthony Richardson would make an absolute ton of sense in Baltimore as a backup, because they could run exactly the same scheme and not have to tailor it too much. But yeah, when you've got like differing skill sets, it just makes no sense whatsoever. Well, obviously the Falcons have gone for 2 terrible left armers, so they're staying very consistent.
Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa keeps getting concussed, and Michael keeps shutting his Penix in the door.
Yeah, both are not very good at all. Let's move on then. Current state of the roster. We've kind of talked about this a little bit. like mostly the roster is in pretty good shape, and most positions are pretty much locked in. So we'll start just on the offensive side of the ball. So Patriots made a really important depth signing this week, bringing in seasoned veteran Greg Van Roten, 36-year-old guard with a ton of experience, has started the last 2 years for the Giants, believe has over 100 career starts on several teams. And obviously with the injuries to Ben Brown and Andrew Rupsich, who's been put on IR for the season, depth was looking wafer thin. But Van Roten is someone who is kind of the perfect signing for us at this time. There's someone who's probably not going to be expecting to start over Vera Tucker and Onwenu, but if he needed to plug a gap during the season, he's someone that you can rely on to go in, slide in and do a job. He's a great third guard to have, and I was really pleased that we got that done so quickly after he came in for a visit.
Yeah, so he spent his 3 years as a Green Bay Packers in 2012, 2013, for Carolina, 2017 to 2019, the Jets, 2020 to 21, the Bills in 2022, the Raiders in 23, and then obviously Giants in the 24 to 25. He also had short off-season stints with the Seahawks in 2014 and the Jags in 2017, and spent 2 seasons with the Toronto Argonauts, who's in the CFL in 2015-2016 in the Canadian Football League. 6'3", 305-pounder, originally entered the NFL as a rookie free agent with Green Bay in 2012 out of Pennsylvania. Overall, he's played 144 regular season games with 105 starts, 75 at right guard, 27 at left guard, and 3 at center. Last season with the Giants, he started all 17 games at right guard. So he's basically the backup to Michael Onwenu.
Yeah, but I'd imagine if Vera Tucker went down, then he plugs in at left guard as well. He's now the number one interior backup, right? Hopefully, then Ben Brown is back for the start of the regular season, and it's just this short period of the preseason, that he's out for, and then you've got Brown and Van Roten, who we know can plug in and do a job. Obviously, Brown covers your center as well. You probably like one more guy on the practice squad that can bring up, whether that's a Mekhi Butler or whoever. It doesn't sound as if James Hudson is making any inroads at all. I mean, he's someone that was drafted in the 3rd round a few years ago. He's bounced around a couple of teams. He's played tackle, he's played guard, but he just doesn't look very good. And I'm not sure I'd be wanting to keep him around. The only thing that works in his favor is that he can play four of the 5 spots on the offensive line, and if you just need a Swiss Army knife in there as a backup, then you keep him around. But aside from that, I'm not sure he gives you much confidence in wanting to keep him, especially when you look at the tackle positions, which is primarily his position. Campbell, Bryant, Moses, Lomu as 4, and then you've got Demetrius Crownover as well, who has looked okay. He's playing mainly with the kind of the 3rd team offense at the moment, but someone who has potential as a later round pick. I would probably rather keep Demetrius Crownover than James Hudson and just take a flyer on the young kid.
Yeah, I would.
But yeah, overall, interior O-line depth really important, and Van Roten has come in at the right time.
Yeah, definitely has come in at the right time. It's good to have depth, and obviously when we get Ben Brown back, it will be add even more depth. So that's what you kind of need. But we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we could do. We know that with the pass rush situation, right? Especially with Harold Landry still injured and unclear when he's going to be back. You're looking at our edge group being Draymond Jones, Gabe Akers, Elijah Ponder, Braden Swinson, and maybe one other, right? That room needs work. You've got 2 young guys in there, 3 young guys in there if you include, obviously Akers as well. Obviously 2 of them were. One was a UDFA and one was a 5th round pick, so they're probably further down. Although Ponder seems like he's made a step forward, but that's a bit of an area of concern. I do wonder whether when roster cut downs come, whether someone will shake free from another team and there'll be a waiver claim for someone with a bit of experience, or whether we get into the season and you might see someone like I don't know, just throwing this name out there. I'm not saying I'd be massively on board with it, but someone like a Joey Bosa, who is just massively experienced and has been productive in his career. Yes, he's a massive sick note as well, but if you're struggling off the edge and someone like that is a free agent and you can bring them in on a veteran minimum or whatever to help you, then that's something I think is worth
I
exploring.
didn't know Joey Bosa was on. I didn't know Joey Bosa was a free agent. I thought he was still signed up.
After leaving Buffalo last year. So
I take a 1 year flyer on him. I mean, let's be real. Joe Bosa's been a fantastic edge rusher. I think the one thing that's missing to his name is a ring.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, he's been stuck on a pretty shit Chargers team for most of his career, but then
he's been on some really shit teams for the past God knows of his career. So, but maybe that might work.
There might be some guys there. I mean, obviously, then you've got midway through the season, you've got the trade deadline, and we've been linked with players like Kayvon Thibodeau. And if the Giants get to mid-season and feel like they want to deal him rather than him go as a free agent, then obviously you could look at swinging a trade for him. So there hopefully will be options there. A couple of names that were banded around, one of which is at a position of need, even though we said there's a few guys in there already battling for jobs in the position. But the Patriots had visits the other day with former Panthers and Bills linebacker Shaq Thompson and also former Bills nose tackle Daquan Jones. Now, both of those guys played for the Bills last year. Shaq Thompson has had a pretty solid career. Has been one of the more consistent inside linebackers with Carolina and with Buffalo. He's 32, tons of experience. I would definitely sign him. Even though he's in the twilight years of his career, I think to add someone with that level of experience and career background would be invaluable to that room. And I'm sorry to someone like KJ Britt or Khalil Jacobs as a UDFA, but if you can bring in someone of Shaq Thompson's quality to play as a third linebacker behind Ellis and Spillane, that's a no-brainer for me. I would do that all day long.
I would take Shaq Thompson just to piss off Bills fans. I generally would. We took Stephon Diggs off you. Guess what? He got us to a Super Bowl, so maybe Shaq Thompson might be able to do the same.
Yeah,
you don't know.
That would make a ton of sense. It would certainly alleviate the pressure from Spillane and Ellis. You can have a guy who can really hold his own rather than throwing an unknown UDFA into the fire. Daquan Jones is an interesting one because I think you look at him as a 34-year-old nose tackle, run stuffer, thinking we could probably use someone like that. However, that interior D-line room is absolutely loaded. Now, we don't have someone quite of the profile of a Daquan Jones, but I don't see who you leave off for him because we already spoke. We know the top two, Williams and Barmore. We know that Durden has entrenched himself as the number 3. Josh Farmer looks like he's had a good camp, and he was a draft pick last year. So there's your 4. And then your 5th guy is Leonard Taylor, who at the end of last season was really coming on leaps and bounds after we picked him up from the Jets, had the blocked field goal against the Broncos in the playoffs. He's a young player that you probably don't want to let go because probably would get claimed by another team if we released him.
Instantly.
And he's a young ascending player. So you then got 5 defensive linemen. I don't think you're going to carry 6. So if you're going to sign a Daquan Jones to come in and be your nose guy, to be your Tonga replacement, who are you leaving out? I genuinely don't know. And that's where the conundrum is that you could probably do with a guy like that, but then who are you bumping for him?
No,
what would you bump? Would you take a chance with Leonard Taylor that you could get him on the practice squad? Would you carry 6 defensive tackles? What would you do?
We've got plenty of options. Let's just say we've got plenty of options and plenty of depth on that defensive tackle position, and I think that's one position I don't think we're going to be worried about. I think again, it's going to be edge and it's going to be linebacker. It's the two. It sounds like to me it's the same 2 positions that we are having an issue with from last year. Although we added more pieces, we're still not getting the success that we needed to. Maybe as the season goes along, maybe we will get the success that we need from the edge.
Yeah, and the only other thing to consider is, do we play more 3-man fronts? And if you bring in a Daquan Jones, can you play, 3 down linemen of Barmore, Williams, Daquan Jones, and then send 2 off the edge and sacrifice a linebacker or a defensive back in certain situations, because we know that Williams and Barmore have played snaps on the edge in their career. I'm not sure you want them to do it full time, but if that's a way to get Daquan Jones into the team and you become better against the run as a result of that, then I think it's an option. Look, neither of these guys have signed yet. They were just in for visits the other day, but we saw Greg Van Roten come in for a visit and he signed 2 days later or whatever. So, there's obviously an interest in them two players. So Shaq Thompson is an absolute for me. Get him in the team, and then work out what you're going to do if you're going to bring in Daquan Jones as well. But I think if both of those guys do come in, then I think you're in pretty good shape in terms of run defense as well. You've plugged the gap at linebacker, and then you're literally maybe a third down or a third string running back and one more interior lineman away from having your set roster.
I think we're going to be in good stead. I think defensive side of the ball, we're going to be in good stead moving forward. I think we're approaching now. We're 20th of August. We're only 3 weeks away until the start of the new season. I think we're starting to get quite excited now, because we know last season was a complete and utter whirlwind for us.
Mm-hmm.
No one expected us to freaking go 14-3 and make the freaking Super Bowl. I think even the most deluded of Patriots fans still wouldn't have believed that. But looking through this season, yes, okay, we're going to have a much, much more harder schedule. But this team is shaping up to be better than what it is last year.
Yes.
And that adds to the pressure. But I'm looking forward to it. This offense, I am so excited to watch. And yes, it is because of AJ Brown. I don't care. I wanted AJ Brown when he was in the draft, and we fobbed it and we fucked it up royally. It might have been 8 years late, but we finally got him in the door, and he's got a brilliant quarterback to be serviced with. So that's what I'm excited about moving into this season as well. I think the defense will hold down its own. I trust the defense to hold down its own. But yeah, I'm just super excited. So finally watch some football for a change. It's going to be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we'll come on to our season preview, in the coming weeks. We've obviously teased, we'll have a big preview show and prediction show where we'll go through the schedule, we'll make our predictions. That'll be coming up in the next few weeks before the season starts, as well as a Seahawks preview, hopefully with 12 Talk podcast. So we need to speak to them as well and get them back on. They were our guests for the Super Bowl preview. I'll see plenty more stuff to come on the show next week. I'm aiming for next week, not confirmed, but certainly planned for next week. I'm aiming to do my 53-man roster projection. I wanted to get 2 preseason games in before doing that. So hopefully we'll bring that to you next week with my 53-man roster. And then, of course, as we get closer to the season, we'll have the prediction show. We'll have the previews. We'll get ready. But just now, not in terms of a prediction, but just to throw this at you, Kyle. We've gone through the schedule in our own mind, and we'll elaborate more on this in the coming weeks. But we've gone through it and worked out a rough guesstimate of where we could be at. The most common winning record, most common record I'm seeing online from people that are predicting, people that work in the NFL media or whatever are predicting, is actually the figure I have in mind. I think the Patriots finished 12-5. There's a little spoiler alert for you. I think we go 12-5.
So now, for me, 11-6 is the floor. Anything less than that is a failure. Anything less than that is a failure of a season. Regardless if we make the postseason or not, it's a failure to go 10-7. I believe
the Vegas win line is 10.5, which I think is positioned perfectly for the floor, like you've just said.
Yeah.
I think we will cover that. I think the Patriots will take the over on the wins. I think we're being discounted a little bit this offseason because of last season's record. All the record goblins from last year are swirling around. But I think ultimately we have a better roster this year. We're 2 years into the Vrabel era, 2 years when McDaniel's working with Drake May. Our quarterback's getting better. Our defense is getting better. And if certain things can fall into place, this will be a much better team from last year. Yes, we won't catch as many people off guard, but 12-5, should be enough still to win the division. I think
will
overall,
that be enough to win the division though? Will that be enough to win the division?
I think it could be. Saying that, speaking to a friend the other day who's a Bills fan, and we were running through each other's rosters about who would you take over, would you take this Bills player versus this Patriots player? We come to the conclusion that it was over 65% Patriots you would take. Basically, the Patriots have a better overall roster than the Bills. So
also going into the Bills as well, they are into their brand new bedpan stadium now, and they've got a first year head coach now. Okay, the upgrade on that is that Joe Brady, was the OC of the Bills and the former offensive coordinator Josh Allen, so he's already got some chemistry with him already. But it's a lot different from being an OC to being a head coach, and that's going to be the fundamental. That could be the problem with the Bills for this coming season. And I always say, when someone moves into a brand new stadium, which is not their original home, it can be a bit. There was a word to be used for this. I can't remember what it is.
Disruptive.
I'll go with disruptive. I think the word will come into my head at some point. But yeah, let's just call it disruptive. It's going to feel different. It's going to feel different. It's going to feel weird. Yeah. It's like when you leave your family home and you move into a new house. You get that sense of, oh god, this feels very strange. I'm not quite sure what to. And I think the first few games, it's going to take a while for Buffalo to get used to playing in that stadium. And yes, okay, they got preseason, but preseason and regular season are completely different kettle of fish.
Yeah, and that stadium's lost, like obviously with the new stadium, they've lost the charm and the character of the original Highmark, right?
Of course they have.
And now it just feels like a typical template stadium that's, a modern stadium that's been built. I watched their highlights the other day. It just felt a little bit like generic.
It looks like a soccer stadium. Sorry to say this. It looks like it's Tottenham Hotspur Light. That's basically what it is.
And I believe it was the same stadium designer as well.
It's the same architects. Architects for the stadium, yeah.
So that's the thing. It'd be like when Tottenham moved into their new stadium and lost the charm and the atmosphere of the original White Hart Lane. More recently in the Premier League, when Everton have moved to Hill Dickinson from Goodison, like it doesn't have that same feel. These are magnificent, expensive, nice aesthetically looking stadiums with all the state-of-the-art technology and equipment and this, that, and the other.
But there's no passion, there's no charm, there's no soul.
Character and feel of certain stadiums. Like, just look at the Packers with Lambeau, right? That stadium has stood the test of time. That's one of the most traditional stadiums where people look forward to visiting it. I don't know if people look forward to visiting these template stadiums.
I don't know. I mean, the only thing I'm looking forward to right now is eventually going to Foxborough to see the Patriots play. Although right now we're all going to need a second mortgage to get tickets for those games. We're better off going to a pre-season game. Cheaper.
Big up to Grandizer, one of our regulars here on Pats Across the Pond. Signal keeps dropping here. Hope you can see my comments and questions. Well, unfortunately, this is the first one I've seen, so it can't be a very good signal wherever you are in the world, unfortunately, because this is the first one I've had come through. So I do apologize. If we had seen all the other ones that had come through, we definitely would have got to them. But unfortunately, I've only just had this one come through from yourself now. So I do apologize, but I hope you're doing well. But we are now bringing it towards the end of the show. Appreciate you, Carl. It's good to have you back, mate. Obviously, it's been a long time coming. You've had a long summer break. You've been sweating your bollocks off in this hot streaming room. But now back into the routine again. As I said, coming up on the show over the next few weeks, we will have our 53-man roster projection. We will have our big season preview. And, of course, we will have our match preview for the Seattle opener, hopefully with the guest on for that one. As we build up to week 1. In the meantime, don't forget to smash the like button, Gronk Spike the subscribe button, follow us on social media at PatsATP. That's important because then you will see when our shows are going to drop. At the moment, it's still very much an ad hoc schedule, so you want to keep it tuned to X in particular at PatsATP to find out when we're going to be going live. And of course, if you subscribe, you'll get the notification notification bell as well to let you know that we're going to be going live with one of the shows. But in the meantime, enjoy this Saturday's preseason game against the Philadelphia Eagles, and we will chat to you next week on Pats Across the Pond for more Patriots football.